or they both are same? Method overloading and overriding. Yes, Tanvi.
Overriding have same signature, ma'am, and overloading have different signature, means different parameters.
Okay, that's it.
Then overriding is declared in different class, while we can overload in same class.
Okay, great. That's true. Method overloading is within a same class with the same method name but different signatures. And overriding is in the superclass and subclass pair with same signature. Superclass has a method and subclass may write its own version of the same method. So we have seen these are the main two difference between overloading and overriding. Overloading deals with multiple methods in the same class with same name but different signature. Method name in both the cases it is same. Note that overloading and overriding are the examples of polymorphism. But overloading is example of compile time polymorphism or ad hoc polymorphism, whereas overriding is example of runtime polymorphism or pure polymorphism. In overriding, it deals with two or more methods, one in parent class and other can be in subsequent child class, and have same signature. Your signature is different, your signature is same. Overloading let you define similar operation in different ways or different manner. Same operation, we have seen the example, add, addition can be done on two matrices, two strings, concatenation of two strings, two complex numbers. So name is same, but performing operations in multiple different ways. Or in case of say print, you can just print a message, you can print a message with a result, you can print message with multiple variables. So that is also example of method overloading. In case of method overriding, it lets you define a similar operation in different ways for different object types. So we have seen display function. When with the person, it is displaying only personal information. With the employee, it is displaying employees pay slip. If we write display function for student, we implemented it to print result or mark sheet of a student. So this is the example of overriding. Now this is a very important term, dynamic method dispatch, or what we call it as runtime polymorphism. Method overriding forms basic of Java's most powerful concept, which is called dynamic. As what is dynamic? Dynamic means at runtime. Method is a function, and dispatch means um, the call method call we call a method and method body. So the call and method body, that binding between method call and method body is called dispatch. This is done at runtime. Mechanism by which a call of an overridden method is resolved at runtime rather than compile time. So by this dynamic method dispatch, Java implements runtime polymorphism. Okay. We know, I don't know whether you know or not, I'll explain you that superclass reference variable can refer to subclass object. You can create a reference of superclass and you can assign a subclass object to it. How we create object? You can see the chat box. How to create an object? Suppose you have complex class and you have to create object of complex class. How to create object C1 of complex class? Complex.
Complex object name equal to new complex, and then we add the two brackets and the semicolon.
Right. So this is assignment operator, and right side of assignment operator, that is complex C1. That is called object reference. It is just a reference. And when you say new complex C1 opening and closing bracket, the right hand side part of assignment operator is actual, you are creating an object, right? So if you write on left hand side, suppose it is your superclass name, and right side, if it is you are creating object of subclass, that means you are referring. Superclass reference can refer to the subclass object. When an overridden method is called through superclass reference, Java determines which version of that method to execute based upon the type of objects being referred at the time of call occurs. So I'll explain you this with example. First we'll look at the example and then we'll come back to this slide. So I have to stop sharing the screen. And, it's visible, Python tutor.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can see here I have created 3 classes, class A, class B and class C. And each class has a method call me. Class A's call me method is calling inside A's call me method. Simple println statement. B, just one method. Again, method signature is exactly same. It is overridden method call me, but it is class B's call me method. Class B extends A, and this is class B's call me method. This B's version of call me. Class C also extends A. This is which type of polymorphism? Which is base class and which are child class? Which is child class? Which type of polymorphism here?
Multi-level.
No. This is hierarchical polymorphism because let me stop presenting. Board is visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So class A is superclass, class B and class C are derived from class A. Okay, so this is called hierarchical inheritance. Now what we are doing is, we have written call me method in class A, call me method in class B and call me method in class C. Class A's method is printing I am inside A, B and C. Now look here, I am creating 3 objects, object small a, small b and small c. A is object of A, B is object of B and C is object of C. So how to call A's call me method? A dot call me. B dot call me. And C dot call me. This is also method overriding. The object of class A is calling A's call me method. Object of class B is calling B's call me method. Object of class C is calling C's call me method. Then what is dynamic method dispatch? So look here what we are doing. I'm creating reference of type A. AR. How to create object small a? A small a is equal to new A. So this is a reference and this is the object. So you are assigning A becomes an object of class A. But if I just write AR, here R is a reference, memory is not allocated to this reference. Now I am saying R is equal to B. So object B is assigned to R. Here R is equal to C. Object C is assigned to R. Here R is equal to A. Object A is assigned to R. And when R is call me this, so which method to call? R dot call me. Should it call A's call me, B's call me, or C's call me? This is resolved at runtime, depending upon which address R is holding. Whether R is holding address of A, then R dot call me will call A's call me method. If you are saying R equal to B, then it will call B's call me method. If R is equal to C, then it will call C's call me method. So at compiler time, and when compiler is looking at your program, at this line r.colme, you don't know which address you are going to store in R. This call is resolved at runtime, so it is called runtime polymorphism. So here reference is created of base class, that is subclass R. R is a reference, and you are saying R equal to A. So A's object reference is stored in A's reference, and then you are saying R dot call me. So it will call me method of class A. Then when you are storing address of B, that is object B, now R is pointing to object of class B, and you are saying R dot call me, it will call B's call me method, and it is same thing for C. Let's see how it works. I'll stop the camera. So it will be easy for you to see the visualization. Note that your program will run without dynamic method dispatch, without polymorphism, without method overriding. Instead of creating same name, I can write a name as call A, call B, call C, different method names. Then why to go for overloading? Why to go for overriding? Why to go for dynamic memory dispatch? These are all design time decisions, and this will affect your project when you are doing a project in large scale. I'll let you know how it works. So see, ABC, it's normal how we create object. Program has started its execution from line number 22. We are creating object of class A. Note that we haven't defined any variables, so memory will not be allocated for method. Common memory will get allocated. So A is, what is A? Instance of A. That is pointing some memory is allocated for A. Then same thing for B and C. So we are creating object of class B and class C. So these are three objects. So in memory, we have class A object, A's instance, B's instance, and C's instance. So we have created these three objects. Now note here, we are creating reference AR. It is just a reference. Memory is not allocated. It is just a pointer, dangling pointer. So R is a reference. And note that this reference we are saying R equal to A. So now R is pointing where A is pointing. A is pointing to A's instance, so R will also point to A's instance. Now when you call R dot call me, which method it will call? A's call me. So it is calling call me method for this. This means you can see here A's instance. So it will print this inside A's call me method. Now R equal to B, so this will point to B's instance. Now R dot call me is calling B inside B's method. And R dot C calling inside C's call me method. What we achieved using this, can anyone tell me which feature of object-oriented programming we achieved with this R dot call me? What is the use of this dynamic method dispatch? What are different features of object-oriented programming that we studied?
Polymorphism.
Yes, it is polymorphism. Then,
Inheritance.
yeah, it is using inheritance, correct. Does it using abstraction or encapsulation? Is data hiding is there? Look
No,
at
ma'am.
look at the name. Name just this R dot call me, R dot call me. But what is there with the R is hidden. It is not available for the user till runtime, which method is assigned to A. Okay, I'll show you one more interesting part. Instead of creating this, what I'll do is I'll create array of size 3. how to create array of references. A R of is equal to new A. So I'm creating three memory locations for R. These are references. Now for integer R is equal to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus. This assignment I'll do here. R of I, 0. Means at 0th location, I'm storing object of A. Instead of creating just one variable, I'm just creating three array with references. R of 1, first location, I'm storing address of B. And in second location, 0, 1, and 2, I'm storing for C. And I'll just say R of I dot column. So if you look at the for loop, R of I dot call me, if value of I is 0, it will call A's call me method. If value of I is 1, it will call B's call me method. If it is 2, it will call C's call me method. You'll get the same result. These are three objects, A, B, and C. And A are, this is, you can see array of references 0, 1, and 2. And initialized to null because these are the references. Now what first reference, 0th reference will refer to A. First reference will refer to B and third reference will refer to C. So when we call R of I dot call me, if value of I is 0, it will call A's call me, then B's call me, and then C's call me. This is how abstraction works. Implementation is hidden from the user. If you look at this code, the third person will not understand which method is exactly getting called. But the programmer or team member will understand this. This concept is difficult to understand, but it is very interesting. I hope you got it, what I meant to say. Using superclass reference, the concept is one-liner. Using superclass reference, this reference is of superclass, that is class A. We can call methods of child class. Using superclass reference, we can call methods of child class. That's it. It is called dynamic method dispatch. We cannot create reference of child class and call method of superclass. This is not possible. I cannot create here B of R and then call method of A. It is not possible. I have to create reference of superclass and then I can call child class methods. Is it clear? In both the cases, you are getting the same output. Whether you create an array or just you create one variable. The output depends on this assignment. Which object you are assigning to that particular reference. Depending upon that, the particular method will be called. Otherwise, this call r.call will look same at compile text. Any queries about this? you can have any number of classes inherited from A, and it is not restricted for only 2 classes or only 2 levels. For any, you can go horizontally or vertically, you can have any number of classes and this will work. It will work depending upon which object you are passing to reference. I hope you understood dynamic method dispatch concept. We'll see the theory part. So superclass reference variable. Now what is a reference variable? We are not creating or allocating memory. We are just creating reference. A R semicolon or B small b semicolon or complex C1 semicolon. That is called reference. We are just creating a reference, and if that reference you can refer to an object of subclass. You can create object of subclass and you can assign it to the reference of superclass. When an overridden method, note that you can call only overriding ridden methods. You cannot call normal methods with this reference. Why overridden methods? Because method signature in superclass and subclass is exactly same. Which version to call is depending upon which object you are assigned to that particular variable or reference. So when an overridden method is called through a superclass reference, Java determines which version of that method to execute based upon the object being referred to that at the time the call occurs. So when the call is occurring and which address that particular reference is holding, that object or the method for that particular object gets called. This determination is made at runtime. Runtime means when program executes. When different objects are being referred to, different versions of overridden method will be called. Just now I explained you about C and B. It is the type of object being referred to, not the reference variable. Note that reference variable is of type A, but the object type of object is B's object, C's object, or A's object. So depending upon which object that reference is referring to, determines which version of overridden method will be executed. Now is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
You need to execute this code and study it properly to understand what is meaning of dynamic method dispatch. This code is here in the PPT. I'm going to share this PPTs with you today. So this is the same code that I explained you just now. You can copy paste it and you can try it. You can also try to add more class D which extends A or class D which extends C. Write call me method for class D and check whether this reference variable is able to call D's call me method or not. You need to play with this code, any code, then only you will learn. So why to use overridden methods? Overridden methods allow Java to support runtime polymorphism. Otherwise, then what is the use of Java? You can write programs in C or C++. If you didn't use overloading, overriding, dynamic method dispatch, then there is no use for going for Java. So it gives you extra power to make your program more simpler, more readable, more secure, robust. So you need to use these advanced concepts while programming. The overridden method allow Java which supports runtime polymorphism. It allows a general class to specify methods that will be common to all its derivatives, while allowing subclasses to define specific implementation of those methods. So this is just a prototype. A base class or a super class is a general class, and it can write the simpler version of those methods, but the class who derives that particular class can implement specific versions of those methods, but the name, number of parameters and return type should be same. So that's what we can call a protocol. You have to implement that method in this particular format only. So it specifies this thing is common to all of its derivatives, and it also allows subclasses to define specific implementation of some of these methods. or all of these methods. So you can write whatever you want to do in your method, but title, name, and number of parameters must be same. That is what the restriction is. So overridden methods are another way that Java implements one interface, multiple methods. This is the aspect of polymorphism. One to one to many. So it is one to many. One interface, name is common, but multiple methods. Implementations are different. This is another example of runtime polymorphism. So class figure is very general term. We didn't know whether it is uh, figure with 3 vertices, 4 vertices, 5 vertices, nothing. We didn't know anything about the figure. Figure is a general term. Dimension 1, dimension 2. I didn't know whether this dimension is length or breadth or length or height, etc. So 2 dimensions. And we are creating, just assigning these values to dimension 1 and dimension 2. This is a constructor. And area is just printing area of figure is undefined. So figure, I didn't know what is the area, but this, for any figure which gets inherited from this class figure, should have area function. In this case, area is undefined, but when we write a circle or when we write a triangle or when we write a rectangle, we can calculate the area of circle, area of triangle, area of rectangle. So here area is undefined. When rectangle class extends figure, it can call superclass constructor to initialize A and B, and it can calculate area as multiplication of dimension 1 and dimension 2. In case of triangle, area function is different. Dimension 1 into dimension 2 divided by 2. And you can write a class find areas. You can create figure object, then rectangle object and triangle object, and calculate how to call area function. This is the homework for you. Use dynamic method dispatch, which will call method area for triangle class and rectangle class and produce output. Area of triangle is, area of rectangle is. Using dynamic method dispatch, using object of figure. You got what you have to do? Here, figure class has variables dimension 1, dimension 2 and constructor. Then figure class derives two classes, rectangle and triangle, with same method area, which calculates area of rectangle. Here it calculates area of a triangle. And in main, you have created these 3 objects. So how to call method for area, which will display area of rectangle and area of triangle. Don't use r dot area or t dot area. We didn't want to call area method with object of rectangle class or triangle class. We want to call method area with the reference of figure class. So how to do that? This is class figure. With double dimension 1, dimension 2, constructor and method. Method is a very general method. Let me copy rectangle class. As a constructor which is calling superclass constructor with super keyword to initialize these 2 parameters. This is a constructor of rectangle class. And this is overridden method of rectangle class area, which calculates area of a rectangle. double area, area inside area of a rectangle, and return dimension 1, dimension 2. Because area function is returning double value. Here also it is returning double value, 0.0. Similarly, we have to write triangle class. More specific example of dynamic method dispatch. This is a constructor which will initialize values with superclass constructor using a super keyword. Now, in main, we are creating three objects: figure, triangle, and rectangle. So my question is how to call these methods: area method of triangle class, rectangle class, and figure class using a reference of figure class. So first we need to create reference of figure class, figure R. I hope this is visible to you. Then if you assign R dot F, means R is pointing to F, and R dot area. We need a double value here to store double A. This value will, this function is returning value double system out dot println area is. When we run this, it will calculate area for figure, which is undefined. Okay, R is defined for rectangle, so here I'm using reference. The object of figure class, you can see object of figure class has two variables, dimension 1, dimension 2, and we assigned it with 10 and 10. F is object of figure class. Then R is object of rectangle class with dimension 1, dimension 2. We initialize it for 9 and 5. T is object of triangle class with dimensions 10 and 8. So we have these three objects. Now we create a reference REF and it is pointing to figure. REF is reference of class main figure, but it is referring, now here it is referring to figure instance only, and when it call ref dot area, it will call area method of class A, F, and it is saying area of figure is undefined and complete. Area is 0.0. On the same lines we can use for if we pass rectangle and triangle. Three objects are getting created: F, R, and T, figure, rectangle, and triangle. And this reference is pointing to F. It will print area is undefined and area is 0.0. Next, this reference is holding reference of rectangle. Note that this is just a pointer or another name or alias given for R. Instead of saying R dot area, we are saying ref dot area. It will call area method for rectangle class. Equation is different, length into breadth, and area is 9 into 5, that is 45. The value of A is 45 and it will print that area is 45. Now again, that reference is holding reference of T, that is triangle class. So it will point where T is pointing. Ref will point where T is pointing. That is triangle instance. And called area method for triangle class, which is 10 into 8 divided by 2, that is 40. So value of A is 40 and it will display area of triangle is 40. First example was without variables and this is with variable. Meaning is same. We are using base class reference to call subclass methods. What we are doing? Base class reference. This is the reference of base class. Figure is our base class and rectangle and triangle which are derived from figure. Is it clear? Here right hand side is this line number 46, 49 and 52 looks exactly same but producing different outputs because at this particular run point refer is holding address or pointing to object F. This reference is pointing to object R and here reference is pointing to object T, that is triangle. So the output is different at different program points. So it is called runtime polymorphism. Superclass variable can refer a subclass object. A reference variable of a superclass can be assigned a reference to any subclass derived from that superclass. It is important to understand that it is the type of reference variable and not the type of object it referred to that determines what members can be accessed. That is, when the reference to an object class is assigned to the superclass reference variable, you will access only those part of the object defined by the superclass. This is very important. I hope you understood this statement. If you have another method in child class, which is not overridden method, which is that class personal method, private method, or the exclusive method of class B or class rectangle or triangle, you cannot call that method with base class reference. You can call only those methods which are overridden, which are same between base class and derived class. Only those methods can be called with base class reference. When a reference to subclass object is assigned to a superclass reference variable, you will access only to those part of the object defined by the superclass. An object of the superclass can be referred by using variable of any extenders types. Means you can have A, B inherits A or extends A, C extends B. So A can call method of B as well as method of C. In multi-level, it will work for hierarchical inheritance as well as multi-level inheritance. As I told you, horizontally or vertically. This is one more example. Reference demo. We have box weight. In previous examples, we have defined a class box with three variables: height, width, and depth, and volume function. Area function of a box, height into width into depth, and then box weight. Box weight added one more variable, that is weight, to that box. Volume function. Then we have defined object plain box, that is new box, and double volume, and we call weight box dot volume is equal to volume, and volume of weight box is this one, and weight is this one, and it assign weight box weight reference to box reference. So again we have created object of box weight. Box weight is child class of box class. Box is our base class, and box weight is child of box weight, and this is object of base class, and this is object weight box is object of child class. What we are doing here, this is object of or reference of base class, and this is object of child class. Child class object we are assigned to base class, and volume we can call this volume method with plain box dot volume method, which is defined in box, and same method we have defined in box weight class also. So we can print that. But if you try to call another method, plain box dot weight, weight variable is defined only in box weight class. It is not defined for box class. So it is not accessible for here. It will create an error. I'll show you box class and box weight class. You'll understand what I'm talking about. This is our box class, which has three variables: width, height, and depth, and a volume method, which returns width into height into depth. And we have box weight class, which has only one variable, other than these three variables: height, width, and depth, which are common between box class and box weight class, and it has only one variable extra, that is weight variable. So when we create object of base class, that is box class, object name is plain box, and we are creating object of weight box class. Here box weight class is weigh box. We have created object of weigh box class and plain box, and for this base class we assign weigh box, and using we can call volume method. This will call volume method of box weight, and it will run your code, and you'll get the output. But if you try to access a variable which is defined in child class, which is not there in parent class, it will throw an error. The following statement is invalid. Plain box does not define the weight member. Or I can show you with this current area and area example. If you define any variable here in class a rectangle, say int x, and here say x is equal to 10 in constructor, you are assigning some value, and if you try to access that value with f, system.out.println, rectangle class, when you are assigning rectangle object to reference, you're printing an area, and if you try to print value of x is, if you write here ref.x, it will show an error. So it is showing an error, cannot find the symbol variable x in figure type, because it will try to match that variable with figure, and figure didn't have variable x. X is defined with variable a, sorry, for figure f or r. Instead of reference, if I write r dot x, it will not have any problem, because x is defined in rectangle and you can print r dot x. So even if parent class reference is pointing to child class object, let's see here, It will not refer to all variables and methods. It will refer to only those variables and methods which are common between figure and rectangle. So here, in next line, ref is pointing to figure, ref is pointing to rectangle. Ref is pointing to rectangle, but ref can point only the method which is common between rectangle and figure. It will not able to print x because x is not defined in figure class. Is it clear? So a parent can access methods of child class only those which are common between parent and child. That is the summary. Next slides, if you can see, these are the slides of using super. Super, I have already explained you. There are three uh, ways where you can use super keyword. Super is used to call super class constructor by super and argument list. As here in rectangle class, we have created, uh, we have called super class constructor by passing these two values, and it will call this figure constructor automatically. So this is how one use of super keyword to call superclass constructor. Another use is we can call superclass method, and next is we can refer to superclass variables. So in this case, there will be no way for subclass to directly access or initialize these variables on its own. Since encapsulation is primary attribute of object-oriented programming, Java provides solution for this. If these data members are private, you cannot access it. Even if it is a child class cannot access private variables of superclass. So that's why we can use super keyword to initial or to call that constructor which will initialize those variables. Whenever subclass need to refer immediate superclass, it can do so by using a keyword super. So super has two general form. First form is superclass constructor, and second is used to access members of a superclass, which are hidden by the members of subclass. That is, you can give super dot, and then we can call with either method or variables. And we have seen this example in a previous session. Super.I, it will print value of I in A, and this is I in B. So we can print both.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Are you presenting?
Okay, I'll explain super keyword in the next lecture. We'll stop here. I hope dynamic method dispatches you got it, and this is very heavy for you to understand.